We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, if you need a little bit of extra content to get you through the days, to get you through the nights, subscribe to our channel, smash that like button, share the video with your family and your friends, your priest, your psychiatrist, your significant other, your cat and your dog. Welcome into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirk Gowdy Avenue. Welcome in. Big night tonight, Sunday night, March 26th. We're going to be talking about the top battles for the quarterback position. Spring games are coming up. We cannot wait. I love spring football. I love it. I love it. We're going to be doing live watch parties. We're going to catch some of the games, so get your head on a swivel. Subscribe to our channel to make sure you get notified of our upcoming live watch parties for spring football. So we're going to be talking about the quarterback battles. We're also going to be going into Barry Tramel's article this morning from the Oklahoman. Very interesting article talking about the potential football scheduling of the Big 12 Conference. We know that, well, the SEC, they haven't figured out their future scheduling. They haven't figured out their permanent rivals for the 16 schools. Big 10, they haven't figured it out. Is it going to be one permanent rival, two permanent rivals, three permanent rivals? The ACC figured it out. They released their permanent rival list a few months ago. So, Big 12, they've got to figure it out, right? What are they going to do going from 2024 and beyond? Barry Tramel, very interesting article. Very interesting article. We're going to be going through that. Then we're going to, do an update on the Pac-12 saga because it continues on and on and on. We did an episode this morning on San Diego State. The basketball coach, Brian Dutcher, the son of the former Golden Gopher quarterback, head basketball coach that I grew up on, Jim Dutcher, for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Brian Dutcher is the son. what an incredible job he has done with the Aztec basketball program. They're going to the Final Four. He talked about last night. It was published last night that San Diego State, he believes that realignment's not done. It is here. It's not going away anytime soon. We did an episode on that. And last night we did an episode on Fresno State, the university president. Sandoval is trying to get Measure E passed. That would help raise funds to help the athletic and academic side of San Diego State. Put $147 million in this arena, $47 or so million in that arena to try to help out Fresno State to see if they can get into the Big 12 as a backup proposition. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. Plus, I want to get to your comments, to your phone calls later on in the program. The phone line's not open yet. 763-260-1333 is the number. Thanks for coming in. John Moore, Jolie Daglio, Gerald Jones. Thank you, Joey, for your continuous generosity to the show. I appreciate you so very much. West Virginia guy, nice to see you back in the house. Jack Lawton, of course, Cornelius Green, K2, Luis Carlos Diaz, Mr. Aztec in the PATC community, San Diego State Final Four. Let's go. Jay Peelmutter, thanks for coming in once again, good friend. San Diego State to the Pac. Go Aztecs. Wow. A lot of momentum in San Diego State. The perfect storm that started brewing last summer. It's raging right now. The perfect storm is here for San Diego State. Okay. First of all, we got to get to our sponsors for tonight's show. First of all, I do want to apologize for the technical difficulties that we had on our last live show, especially to Lewis, who it happened in both of his phone calls. We have a modem issue. We don't have it solved. We're hoping we can get through tonight's show. We're going to get it solved probably tomorrow or the next day. So bear with us. If it happens again, it happens again. And peek around the corner. We'll take another L in our record book. Hopefully we get through the night, and then we'll get ourselves a new modem. Okay? All right. So let's get to our sponsor. We are so fortunate to have welcome to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. So fortunate to have this sponsorship. This incredible coffee that me and the little general absolutely adore. Welcome to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. We invite you to discover the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference. The Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference is the clean, hot air roasted. Coffee produces a smoother, a richer, a healthier coffee that is less bitter and less acidic. Our hot air roasted coffee uses convection heat to loft the beans for a very even heat transfer. The clean, bright taste that people rave about is achieved by roasting the bean quickly and evenly while suspended on a bed of hot air. From craft to cup, hand-picked coffee beans. Go to the link in the description box. Go do yourself a favor, your family a favor, your significant other a favor, and try this coffee out. Order it. And if you want to support the channel, please put PATC in the comment section in the website. But give this coffee a try. Sensational coffee. One other thing, go visit our merch store, PATC merch store. There's a link in the description box as well. You see the hoodies. You see the pink one. You see the maroon one. There's black. There's 7 different colors. There's the PATC trucker hat. The PATC official cloak and dagger mug. We'll be adding more items to our store in the next few months. The mug is selling pretty good. Pretty good. People want to get their hands on the mug because during the show, at Peek Around the Corner in the PATC community, every time I say the word cloak and dagger, Official game room rules. Drink whenever Greg says cloak and dagger. It only counts when Greg says it. Have fun and drink responsibly. Okay. That's some fun in the chat room that goes on every live show. All right. So let's get to the quarterback battles because you guys know I am juicing for some spring football. I cannot wait to watch some spring football games, to see the battles that goes on. And of course, we all focus on the quarterback battles because that's the most important position in all of team sports. So I want to take a look at this article. It's from a couple weeks ago from USC Annenberg Media. No offseason, top quarterback battles to watch as college football spring practices commence. With college football spring practices about to start up across the country, here are the top 5 quarterback battles to watch. By Adam Bradford. Snow is beginning to melt. Yes, even in Minnesota. Finally, we got temperatures above 40 degrees. The snow is melting. We still got it on the ground, but it's going away. Back to the article. Snow is beginning to melt. The days are getting longer. Winter's starting to turn into spring. And that can only mean one thing. College football spring practices will soon be upon us. And they are here. They finally arrive. Spring practices. Over the next couple months, we will get to watch teams across the country as they take the field for the first time in preparation for the 2023 season. And while there will be playing time up for grabs at every position, no position battle gets as much of the spotlight as the quarterback competitions do. So today, let's take a look at the top 5 quarterback competitions to watch during the college football spring practices. UCLA, Ethan Garbers, Colin Schlee, from Kent State, versus Dante Moore, the big 5-star quarterback. We'll get back to the article. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who appeared in 49 games for UCLA over the past 5 years, 5 seasons, is officially out of college eligibility. And with it, the Bruins starting quarterback job heading into their final season in the Pac-12 is officially up for grabs. Redshirt junior Ethan Garbers, Thompson Robinson's backup last season, is still around and will push to win the starting job. Battling him, however, will be a pair of talented additions in redshirt senior Kent State transfer Colin Schlee and highly touted freshman Dante Moore, making UCLA's task of contending without Thompson Robinson even more difficult is the fact that the rest of the Pac-12 is arguably the strongest quarterback conference in the entire country. There's no doubt about it. The Pac-12, this 2023 season, is going to be so fun to watch. They are absolutely stacked at the quarterback position. Back to the article. With high-profile returnees such as USC's Caleb Williams and Utah's Cameron Rising. Utah's Cameron Rising, 2-time defending, reigning Pac-12 quarterback champion. On their schedule, UCLA better hope that whoever wins the starting job is up to the challenge if they want to compete for the conference title. UCLA, 3 guys in the mix. Ohio State, Kyle McCord versus Devin Brown. The Ryan Day era at Ohio State has been marked by stellar quarterback play. Next month, C.J. Stroud will likely become the second Buckeye signal caller in 3 years to be selected in the first round of the NFL draft following Justin Fields in 2021. Battling to replace Stroud will be redshirt sophomore Kyle McCord and redshirt freshman Devin Brown. McCord served as Stroud's backup last season, while Brown, a one-time USC commit, he redshirted. Given the high level of quarterback play that the Buckeyes, Ohio State, has had in recent years, whichever quarterback emerges as the starter will immediately have high expectations placed on their shoulders. In addition, he will have the enviable task of ending the Buckeyes' 2-game losing streak to arch-rival Michigan, a team that Stroud never defeated during his time at Columbus. Mona Vision, our own Mr. Buckeye, in the chat room says it's going to be Kyle McCord. No doubt about it. I believe he's going to be correct on that. Number 3, Georgia Bulldogs, the 2-time defending national champions. Is it going to be Carson Beck, Brock Vandagriff, or Gunnar Stockton? After a decorated 12-year college career, kidding, it was only 6. Capped off with back-to-back national championships, the legendary Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett IV is off to the NFL. Hence, the starting quarterback for the 2-time defending champs is officially up for grabs. Battling for that role will be a trio of former highly touted recruits: redshirt junior Carson Beck, redshirt sophomore Brock Vandagriff, and redshirt freshman Gunnar Stockton. After serving as Bennett's backup last season, Beck is the early favorite to win the job. I think he's more than a slight favorite. I don't think he's quite Kyle McCord, who's a heavy chalk to win the Buckeyes starting job, but Beck, I think, is a very strong favorite. However, back to the article. However, we cannot count out Vandagriff, a more reliable, more mobile option who was a top 20 player in the class of 2021. It should be noted that in addition to his new starting quarterback, the Bulldogs will be breaking in a new offensive coordinator in 2023, following the departure of Todd Monken to the Baltimore Ravens. Head coach Kirby Smart promoted analyst Mike Bobo, who was formerly the head coach of Colorado State, to be the team's new play caller. Even with the new quarterback, even with the new offensive coordinator, peek around the corner in the way too early SEC predictions, we have Georgia once again winning the SEC, primarily because Alabama is also going to have a new quarterback. This is their quarterback battle. Jalen Milroe versus Ty Simpson. For the past 7 seasons, Alabama has enjoyed the benefit of having stellar quarterback play. Jalen Hurts was replaced by Tua Tagovailoa, who was followed by Mac Jones, who then passed the torch on to Bryce Young. But with Young moving on to the pros, Crimson Tide have a major question mark at the quarterback position. The early favorite to win the starting job for the 2023 is Young's backup from last season, redshirt sophomore Jalen Milroe. And I don't think he's going to be able to hang on to the job. I am not very high on him. I think Simpson's going to eventually take over. That's how I think when we get to the last team here, I think the same thing's going to happen. Back to the article. A true dual threat, Milroe would bring an element to the running game that Alabama has not had since Hurts was under center. However, some Tide fans believe that Milroe is too limited as a passer, have been clamoring for redshirt freshman Ty Simpson. A gifted arm talent, Simpson will look to continue the style of quarterback play that Alabama has in recent years. So, again, just like Georgia, new quarterback offensive coordinator, and it's Tommy Rees. As you know, when I did those episodes on Tommy Rees, I wasn't very high on him either. That's why I have to go to Georgia once again to win the SEC championship. The new offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, with their present starting quarterback, I'm going to take the Bulldogs once again. Texas, Quinn Ewers versus Arch Manning. Now, you're saying, Greg, you're being a hypocrite because you're not taking Alabama to win the SEC with the new quarterback, a new offensive coordinator, but you're going to take Texas to win the Big 12 championship because of Arch Manning, baby. Arch Manning. To the article. Normally, when an underachieving program has a mediocre season marked by inconsistent quarterback play, it does not get too much of the national spotlight. In this case, however, it is arguably the biggest storyline in college football this spring. So why is that exactly? Well, there are 3 main reasons. This is the University of Texas that we're talking about. Everything is bigger here, including the spotlight. The incumbent starter who struggled last season is redshirt sophomore Quinn Ewers, one of the highest rated quarterback recruits of all time, whose bizarre journey to Austin would be its own entire column. The biggest challenger to Ewers' role as the starter is a 5-star true freshman whose name just so happens to be Arch Manning. Arch is hoping to write his own legacy at Texas program that has been struggling to return to the top of the sport after over a decade of underwhelming results. When you factor all that in, it seems safe to say that the eyes of the nation will be upon Texas this spring. No question about it. Arch Manning, true freshman. Can't expect much from him. I expect a lot from him. I expect him to take over that quarterback job in the first couple weeks of the season. Once maybe Texas plays Alabama, maybe Longhorns lose to Alabama, Arch Manning takes over. Texas wins the Big Ten 12 championship. Tell me how crazy I am in the comment section or with your phone calls later on the program. Let me know your thoughts and comments about these quarterback battles, about other quarterback battles that USC Annenberg Media did not cover. Garrett Green versus Nico Marchio is just one. There's lots of them all over the country. Now, let's get to the article. Barry Tramel, Oklahoman. Decades after decades of great writing by Barry Tramel. I found this article pretty fascinating, so I wanted to share it with you all. Published this morning, the OU Texas exodus from the Big 12 captured much of the conference intellectual curiosity for most of last year or so, for good reason. The timing of the Sooners and Longhorns going to the Southeastern Conference had major financial ramifications. And producing a schedule for the 14-team league in 2023, perhaps 2024, used most of the bandwidth for the league and its fans. Why worry about the far future when the near future is such a mystery too? And it really is. But now we know when Oklahoma and Texas are headed for Dixie. We know the 2023 Big 12 schedule and the conference can get about the business of setting the scheduling model going forward. But it's not easy. The SEC models have landmark games in which to build around, historic, venerable, particular rivalries that most want to preserve. The Big 12 models have far fewer landmark games to preserve, but have historic groupings, traditions from a long-gone conferences that some want to preserve, but make for clunky scheduling. So what will be the Big 12 format come 2024 when the league will be 12 teams? Or at least for now, we believe, possibly the league will be 12 teams. With no Oklahoma or Texas, but with newcomers, Cincinnati, Brigham Young, Central Florida, and Houston. 9 games? Probably. Permanent opponents? Maybe. How many? No one knows. But the overwhelming guiding principle will be the same as most of the other Power 5 conferences. Maximizing the Big 12's college football playoff opportunities, both the number of teams and seedings. What that means is open to interpretation. As a league of lesser status, the haughty SEC and the Big Ten, does the Big 12 need to play as rugged of a schedule as possible? Tougher non-conference opponents? Maybe even a 10-game league slate? Now listen to what Barry Tramel says next. Really interesting. Those are tough sells on coaches who want as many automatic victories as possible, and bean counters who want as many home games as possible. And does the playoff committee really value the strength of schedule? We don't know how the committee will handle a 12-team format. We do know how the committee has handled 9 years of 4-team format, and it's almost always aligns by defeats other than excluding mid-majors. Never has a 2-loss team made the 14 playoff. Only once has a 1-loss team been seated ahead of an unbeaten Power 5 team, Oregon above Florida State 2014. So the Big 12 is flying without instruments. So is everybody else. The Big 12 is flying without instrument as it begins the process that will result in a 2024 schedule, hopefully announced by this November. After chatting with a variety of Big 12 and campus administrators, here are the issues. Who will be dominant? If the Big 12 is trying to figure out the league's hierarchy, how can they even figure out the balance of schedule when they don't even really know who are going to be the dominant teams? Oklahoma has dominated much of the Big 12's 27-year history. Texas should be good at every year, but the Longhorns haven't been. 6 schools have appeared in the last 3 Big 12 title games. Kansas State, Baylor, Oklahoma. But to TCU, Oklahoma State, and Iowa State finished first in the Big 12 standing those years. Here are the cumulative standings for the last 3 years for the 8 legacy Big 12 members. Oklahoma State 18-9, TCU 17-10, Kansas State 15-12, Iowa State 14-13, Baylor 13-14, West Virginia 11-15, Texas Tech 11-16, and Kansas 4-22. Those are conference records in the last 3-4 years. Go back to 2012, the arrival of TCU in West Virginia, and the standings look like this. Oklahoma State 62-37, Kansas State 57-42, TCU 56-43, Baylor 55-44, West Virginia 47-51. Plus the 4 newcomers come in with a variety of success as independents, BYU, or in the American Conference. Nobody knows who's going to be successful. That's one of the charms of the new look conference. Does the Big 12 want to create new rivalries or protect long-time traditions? The best rivalries are organic. Manufactured rivalries rarely take root. Nebraska, Colorado, Arkansas, Missouri, Central Florida, Connecticut was the ultimate nonsensical rivalry. Concoction was more like it. Long-time traditions are comforting, but might have to be sacrificed. The future Big 12 will be woefully short of arch rivalries. Most of them have been lost to other leagues or simply lost. No Bedlam, no Missouri, Kansas, no Oklahoma, Nebraska, no Texas A&M and Texas, no Oklahoma and Texas. The only must-play games appear to be Kansas State, Kansas, and perhaps Baylor, Texas Christian. I suppose you could add Iowa State, Kansas State, or Baylor, Texas Tech to the list, but if you give Baylor and Kansas State 2 annual opponents, you must give every league member 2 annual opponents. Or 3. History versus geography in the Big 12 scheduling. The new look Big 12 has 2 historic subgroups, the old Southwest Conference and the old Big 8. Southwest Conference, Baylor was a charter member. TCU came along 2023. Texas at 56, Houston 72, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma were gone by the mid-20s. The Texas schools were still in the Southwest Conference when it dissolved in 1996. An Iowa State source said that the Cyclones would prefer to protect their old Big 8 series. It makes sense. It makes sense. The Big 12 could embrace history. Make the Texas schools annual opponents of each other. The old Big 8 schools annual opponents of each other, and make the 4 disconnected schools, West Virginia, Cincinnati, BYU, UCF, annual opponents of each other. The Big 12 could have a 9-game schedule that includes 3 permanent opponents in 6 of the 8 schools. Such a rotation would mean members would play every member at least 4 times every 6 years, would visit every league campus at least once every 3 years. However, that doesn't maximize acclimation for the newcomers to the conference. Does that matter? To the newcomers, probably so. to the old comers, maybe not. Now, this gets back to Oklahoma State's dilemma in Big 12 scheduling. The Cowboys are in the Big 12 crossroads. All that history with Iowa State and Kansas schools, but a natural affinity with the Texas schools. Cold, hard truth, Oklahoma State would prefer more permanence with the Texans than with their old 8 pals. In other words, Barry Tramel's making the argument, and I think it's a good one. If you're going to have permanent rivals, Oklahoma State's going to want more or less those Texas schools because that's where they recruit. They're not going to be so much interested in the old Big 8 pals of Iowa State and the Kansas schools. Okay, we'll skip over that. That talks about Oklahoma State's history. For any particular Big 12 member, that would mean the other 10 schools would rotate throughout the schedule at a rate of 8 per year. Non-annual series would be staged 8 times every decade. Not bad for a conference familiarity. With 3 annual opponents and 9-game conference schedule, the non-annual opponents would cycle through 8 times every 12 years. Still better than the old Big 12 divisional model of 50%. The one permanent rivalry protects Kansas State, KU, and Baylor and TCU. It offers members of a legitimate historic and geographic rival. Cincinnati is 308 miles from Morgantown, West Virginia. The Bearcats and Mountaineers were in the Big East together for 10 years. Houston Tech is an old Southwest Conference rivalry, and they had some kinship as the newcomers to a clannish league. Oklahoma State, Iowa State, you know about that. So what Barry Tramel's going through is, what if you have a one permanent rival? Just one, not 2, not 3, one. BYU and UCF would have almost nothing in common and are 2,300 miles apart, but their links with all Big 12 members are limited. So group those two together. BYU, TCU, and Baylor are private schools. Cincinnati, West Virginia, Central Florida are in the Eastern time zone. That exhausts the connections. Still, the one annual opponent seems best. Protects a couple rivalries. Give every school, not just Oklahoma, as much present and possible in the Texas recruiting grounds. And guarantees as equitable a schedule as possible. And finally, without knowing who will emerge as the conference kingpins or how the playoff committee will slot the 12-team bracket, that's the best Big 12 option for now. And I agree. And I guess I really never thought about it. One permanent rival. One permanent rival. Kansas, Kansas State, Baylor, Houston. Put down your comments in the comments section, and then you rotate all the other teams. You play 8 other games against all those other teams. You're going to be playing each other more often. One permanent rival makes it easy. Maybe the Big Ten should do that. One permanent rival. Okay. Put down your comments, phone calls later, what you think Big 12 should do with their scheduling. Of course, we don't know if they're going to stay at 12 teams, do we, for their football composition. They probably won't. So all this is for naught. But I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a great article by Barry Tramel. Really something that I hadn't thought about. One permanent rival in the Big 12 future scheduling. Okay. One more thing. Then we'll get to your comments and your phone calls. Thanks for all showing up tonight. Make sure if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so. Smash that like button. Share the video with your family and friends. I want to show you guys something here. You remember this joint statement from the 10 Pac-12 conference board members? I'm going to read it. The 10 Pac-12 universities look forward to consummating successful media rights deals in the very near future. Very near future. Based upon positive conversations with multiple potential media rights partners over the past weeks, we remain highly confident in our future growth, in success as a conference, and united in our commitment to one another. Dated February 13th. Today is March 26th. In the very near future, now we've gone a month and a half. And Dennis Dodd said just 6 days ago that the Utah President Taylor Randall spoke Salt Lake City radio and says we still got a ways to go. Still got a ways to go. So when those 10 presidents put out that what we call a vote of confidence and said that we should, what was it again, in the near future? Look forward to consummating successful media rights deal in the very near future. It really didn't happen, did it? And I would be very shocked, very surprised, very, very surprised if something positive happens in the Pac-12 in this coming week. I think they are that far away from consummating a deal. Again, today's episode on San Diego State, believing that realignment is here. It hasn't gone away, and he's correct. San Diego State is waiting for the Pac-12 to get that media deal done and then offer an invitation. Or offer an invitation before you get, whatever, just offer the invitation. When you offer it, though, you better make sure you can deliver the goods. San Diego State is waiting. They've prepared themselves. And I hope it happens for that great university, San Diego State, Southern California. We said it all the way back in episode 4, second week of August of 2022. This was the perfect storm for San Diego State to finally get into a Power 5 program. And Wicker, the athletic director, just get over that wall, jump over that wall. If you need to make concessions, make the concessions. Just get over the wall. And then last night we did an episode on Fresno State's University president discussing how they're trying to pass Measure E to fund more improvements in their athletic programs and their facilities. And they have said, the university president said, we've been in talks with the Big 12. I don't question that for a second. No doubt. Big 12 is making backup plans with backup plans. Fresno State's trying to do all they can so they have the best opportunity to jump over the wall and get into a Power 5 conference. One more thing before we get to your comments tonight. I said something on the last live show, but our feed just froze on us, and then I tried to say it again, and we were having technical difficulties. Let's put it that way. We were discussing how we know that these media companies, they carry a lot of weight when it comes to the decisions these conferences make within scheduling, within expansion. They carry, of course they do. Of course ESPN carries a lot of weight with SEC. Of course Fox Sports carries a lot of weight with the Big Ten. But they don't have complete, total control. They don't. They just don't. Now, it's okay if you don't believe me. You can rag on me in the comments section. But they don't quite have total control. And I've said this before, and I'm gonna make it an emphasis tonight to say this again. For Fox Sports, if another media company paid the freight, came in with the deal, Fox Sports would be all for the expansion of the Big Ten with Washington and Oregon, at least those two schools. I firmly believe that. I'm going to say it here on March 26th. Fox would not say no. Big Ten has said no. Parts of the Big Ten has said no. Not just the president, some administrators have said no for this time, at this point. I am going to be, well, I already was going to be, is my feed okay right now? Does it look good or bad? Because we're getting a new modem tomorrow or Tuesday, but are we okay right now? Give me a yes if we're okay. Give me a no if it's bad. Okay. Feed is great. Hopefully it survives tonight. We'll get a modem for tomorrow. It is the modem. Okay, good. Laura, thank you. What was I saying? Now I've lost my train of thought. There are parts of I am so incredibly fascinated. Sue Murray says yes. Thanks, Sue. On who is going to be the next commissioner of the Big Ten. And we're going to find that out sometime in May, I believe. Kevin Warren leaves his office as the commissioner of the Big Ten about April 17th, right? If, I don't know. I'm keeping my eye on Mark Silverman. If he becomes the Big Ten commissioner, that crack in the door, that expansion door that's cracked open right now, the door is going to blow off its hinges if Mark Silverman becomes the Big Ten commissioner. I'm not saying he's going to. I'm just saying I'm keeping an eye on that situation. Okay, so it looks good. The feed is good for now. Thank you so very much. I'm going to get to your comments, then we're going to open up the phone calls. Again, Joey, thank you for your donation. Jay, San Diego State to the Pac. Go Aztec. Lewis, Carlos, Diaz, San Diego State Final Four. Let's go. K-Do, hello all. Praise the Lord, Greg. Praise the Lord, Mr. Green. Thoughts on the Wisconsin's quarterback room? Mordecai, right? It's got to be him. I just predicted in the last live show for Wisconsin Badgers, the evil Badgers, to win the Big Ten West this year. Even though it hurt me so much, Jack. It did. But we're going with Wisconsin for right now. Way too early predictions. It's got to be the SMU transfer. Big time win. Yes, John Moore. Good evening, Greg. Good evening to you. West Virginia guy, 56. Rest in peace, Pac-12. We're not there yet. It's a lovely evening in Western Pennsylvania. Let's go, Greg. Let's go, Mr. Brown. Jack Lawton, Greg, what's going on with Minnesota? Lots of players transferring out. A lot of good players, Jack. A lot of good players. We just lost Trill Carter. Defensive tackle. I expected more out of him last year, but come on. He's played a lot of snaps, and no one behind him took those snaps from him. So, then we got Flip Dixon. He was going to be a starter this year. He was behind two great safeties for 2 years. He was finally going to be the starter this year. He transfers. The only thing I'm holding out for is Joe Rossi, the great defensive coordinator. Minnesota was 9th in the country in total defense last year, 3rd in the nation in defense the year before. He's going to have to wave that magic wand once again to get the Gophers to be a decent defense this year. They've got some players, of course they do. Everybody does. But Minnesota is losing. They have too many questions to answer, in my opinion. So Gopher fans are not happy with me, Mr. Lawton. But I got Gophers going 5-7 this year. But I'm going to be with them through it all. So we'll see what happens. I think there's going to be a lot of crying on this show. So, hook 'em horns. Hook 'em horns. Horns down. What's going on? Texas and Miami tied at 75. Let me know what's going on. Going to be an interesting quarterback battle in Columbus. Oh, I guess, Joey. I don't know. I think McCord's a big favorite. I think he's a big favorite. Jay says Ethan Garbers is reportedly now dating Sissy Sheridan, a TikTok star. Should we write him off now? I don't know who Miss Sheridan is. I'm going to stay away from that one. Joey, wonder if Manny wins the job over Ewers. Somebody going to hit the portal. You know, it's going to be Quinn Ewers to start the season, right? Right? But at some point, watch Manning's high school tape. Forget the hype. Forget listening to me. I mean, after the show, of course. Just don't listen to the hype. Watch this tape. Watch Arch Manning's tape. He sees the whole field. He's just like his older uncles. The way he processes the field is way ahead of any true freshman quarterback. I mean, you can't. I'm sorry. Ewers got some decent arm talent. The way he slings that ball, doesn't have very good footwork. Quinn Ewers has horrible footwork, but his arm talent has gotten him to this position as the starting quarterback of the Texas Longhorns. But Manning's going to overtake him. Going to be week 1, week 2, week 3. He's going to overtake him, lead Texas to the Big 12 championship. Jared Jones, Mr. Buckeye, says McCord will be the starter. Rick Olson, Gold Ducks. Jonathan Weaver, when will the Big Ten make a decision on Washington and Oregon? They already made the decision for a no-go for launch for further Big Ten expansion in October. I do believe the door is cracked open. Pete Thamel announced it was cracked open. There is interest there, but they're going to have to wait if they want to have a chance to get into the conference before the 2024 season. Will Washington and Oregon slow play this Pac-12 negotiations? There's so many angles to this fascinating story. Will Washington and Oregon be okay with signing a 4 or 5 year deal with the Pac-12? If it's especially mostly streaming? Wow. I don't think so, but we shall see. A lot of great comments. Miami's the Final Four. Holy smokes. What about my Minnesota Golden Gophers men hockey team? Final Four. Got to win it this year. Yeah. Singleton and Allen are going to be insane. If the passing game ends up good, then Penn State could absolutely take the division, and that's from a Buckeye. Luis Carlos Diaz still basking in the glory of the Final Four. Brian Dutcher, Luis Carlos Diaz, congratulations, good sir. Bob Husley brings up a great question. If West Virginia is the rival of Cincy, what rival does UCF have? In that article, Barry Tramel, they have them and BYU connecting as a rival. I think they have Houston with one of the other Texas schools, I believe. Moore may not start day 1. Jay Perlmutter, Mr. Bruin, he's the Mr. Bruin in this PATC community, but should start late in the season. Tough for a freshman to come in, know the system. As good as guys that have been there already. Garbers is legit talent. Schlee has a lot to offer. I don't know if I'm pronouncing Schlee's name correctly, but I watch Mac action. I watch him be a quarterback for Kent State. I don't know how his game transfers to UCLA. I don't, but I'm fascinated about it. I'm going to watch the UCLA spring football game if I can. I don't know what date that is. But I want to see that man play. And, of course, I want to see Dante Moore and Garbers. Should be a fascinating quarterback battle at UCLA. A lot of people talking about the potential rivals in the Big 12. Bob Husley, one rival each for Big 12. Kansas, Kansas State, Baylor, TCU, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Houston, Texas Tech, which leaves Oklahoma State, Iowa State, UCF, and BYU. Don't have a dance partner for those 4 schools. Again, history would tell us that they should place Oklahoma State and Iowa State together, and then just put UCF and BYU together. I think that idea, has merit. I'm really starting to like it, to think about it. David Klein says the Big Ten needs to do that, although I wouldn't be opposed to one permanent rival and 2 rotating rivals. For example, Michigan, Ohio State as a permanent rival, then rotating Minnesota, UCLA, and Illinois, and USC. If they did a one permanent rival Big Ten, let's just pretend. Let's just pretend. We're just pretending. So please don't get upset. Let's say Big Ten does, by hook or by crook, they expand with Washington and Oregon for the 2024 season. Easy solution. One permanent rival. One permanent rival. Play 8 other opponents, and then eight different opponents for the next season. So you play every school once every 2 years. You have a home game with every school once every 4 years. And you have your permanent rival. Washington would be Oregon's permanent rival. UCLA would be USC's permanent rival. Nebraska and Iowa, permanent rivals. Minnesota, Wisconsin, permanent rivals. Northwestern Illinois, permanent rival. Purdue, Indiana, permanent rival. Michigan State, Penn State, permanent rivals. Michigan, Ohio State, permanent rivals. Rutgers, Maryland, permanent rivals. There it is. There's the schedule. One permanent rival, 8 other schools, and then next year you play the other 8 schools. So somebody in the Big Ten office, whoever becomes the new Big Ten commissioner, give PATC a call. Jason W., thank you so much for your donation. Iowa State, Kansas State, longest rivalry left in the Big 12, over 100 years. Yes, of course. And those 2 fan bases, they get it on social media. They get it on. Woo! But, Kansas State has to be with Kansas. If we're talking one permanent rival. It's hard. It's difficult. It looks like it would be easy, but then when you start putting pen to paper, nothing works out. Nothing works out. It doesn't really work. I don't know. I don't know who's going to be Wisconsin's new hockey coach, but that program went into the tank. Someday they'll get it back. Someday they'll get going again. Monovision throwing darts. How many times was Arch Manning hit by a 300-pound defensive lineman in high school? Probably 0 times because he gets rid of the ball so quickly. Monovision is doubting Arch Manning. Wow. Just wait as the season progresses. I'll remember that, Monovision. I will remember what you just said. The guy can flat out play. I'm hyping him. I don't think he's gotten enough hype. How about that? How crazy am I to say that Arch Manning has not received enough hype? I have to be an absolute lunatic, but that is what I believe. He's going to be a player, and it's going to be fast. It's going to be sudden. Nathan Middleton, nice to see you in the house. I put pen to paper for the Big 12 and went with 2 16 divisions and 8 conference games because I couldn't decide the number of permanent rivals or who would get them in a fair way. Yeah, when you're talking balance of schedule, true rivalries, it's tough. These bigger conferences are tough to maintain, and it's not going to be just the scheduling. It's going to be other stuff that's going to come up. Oh, come on. Arch Manning. Arch Manning equals Chris Sims 2.0. No! Okay, let's get to your phone calls. Now, the last time we went to phone calls, then we had some issues. Hopefully we won't have any issues tonight. Again, I apologize for the last live show. We're going to get a new modem. We're going to be running on all cylinders here pretty quick. The phone number is 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Give us a call. The floor is yours. You can talk about anything you want to talk about. The quarterback battles, Big 12 scheduling issues, SEC scheduling issues, Big 10 scheduling issues, Pac-12 saga. Of course, they can't even look at their schedules right now. They can't even get a media deal done yet. So much to talk about. Spring football is here. It's here. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Spring football. Come on. Quarterback battles, new offensive coordinators. Rutgers, Kirk Sharaka. Tell ya, he's going to bring improvement to the Rutgers program. Look out, Michigan State. Look out, Indiana. No way. I have not cooled Arch Manning. Plus, I'm going to be Greg the Heater 2023. Greg the Cooler, that is so 2022. That is no more. That is no more. Greg the Heater, Arch Manning. Arch Manning, your 2024 Heisman winner. Oh, yeah. Rick Olson, the Oregon-Washington rivalry is nasty. Just check its history. Those two fan bases truly hate each other.
Call from.
Hey, Greg. This is Jack Lawton.
Jack Lawton, the floor is yours,
Hey.
sir. What do you got to say?
Greg, noted Wisconsin fan. Just curious, what are the chances that Notre Dame joins the conference?
What are the chances Notre Dame joins the conference? I say very high. But what year is the question? What year is the question? I think I've said this since the beginning of our show. We did episode 1. That was our manifesto. The walls are closing in on Notre Dame. There's going to be so many changes. It's already happening. That's why you saw Notre Dame, Jack Swarbrick, and President Jenkins. That's why they said what they said last week in an interview. It's because these conferences are going to be becoming more and more powerful, and Notre Dame's not going to be able to keep up. It just, when it comes to money, and money's going to be more and more important. So I think Notre Dame's going to be a Big Ten school before 2030. Probably, I think there's a chance before 2026. That's how I look at it.
If they add Notre Dame, how many schools do you think the Big Ten would go to then? I mean, you were talking about Oregon and Washington as well. I mean, would they at Stanford? Or, I guess I don't know. You'd obviously like to have an even number of schools.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Are they looking at a future? Because the Big Ten, no question about it, Jack, no question about it. They're looking to the future to try to, when they end this expansion for this generation of time, it's going to end in the Southeast. somewhere along the East Coast with ACC schools. They're going to add some of those ACC schools. They're going to target them. They're going to get them. They might not get their number 1 target, number 2 target, number 3 target, because the SEC might. But Big Ten's going to scoop up something in the Southeast. So what are you looking at? Are you looking at a 24-team conference, or are you looking at a 20-team conference? If you're just looking at a 20-team conference, then of course there's only 4 slots left. Notre Dame would be one of them. Oregon and Washington, are they going to be 2 others? Then you're only going to take 1 Southeast school. Or are we going to 24? Is the Big Ten actually going to go to 24? Because if the Big Ten is actually going to go to 24, if that's what they're thinking, years down the road, then that's the only thing that makes sense to me when you keep hearing this steam, and I keep hearing it, about this Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and even California. I mean, if you're going to go to 24 schools, you're going to want 6 in the Pacific Coast, right?
Yeah, agreed. I guess, another question. I mean, if you were to add, some schools from the ACC or SEC, I don't know if we'd be able to pluck, some of the bigger programs in the SEC, but I mean, I would like to see like UNC, maybe even Virginia, just kind of aligned, with the Big Ten as far as academics and sports. But I guess I'm curious what you think. Who you think that they would add?
Well, I don't know who the Big Ten would add, because the ESPN and SEC are going to play such a large part. Who they would want to add would be North Carolina, would be Florida State, right? I really believe they're interested in Miami, Florida, like Brett McMurphy, the great reporter from Action Network. He said months ago in a tweet, he said Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Notre Dame, Florida State, and Miami, future Big Ten targets. I absolutely agree with that. North Carolina's in there. North Carolina, Florida State, Miami. They want to get into that demographics. They want to get into that demographics down there. And they're going to succeed at some point, in some way. They're going to succeed getting there. And if they get there, they're probably not going to just take 1. They're going to take 2. Those numbers add up pretty quick, right? 2 Southeastern Conference, 1 Notre Dame. That's already 3. I know they're interested in Oregon and Washington. So if they look at 24, if they're looking at 24, having 6 out in the Pacific Coast makes sense, doesn't it? So keep it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's all I had. Appreciate you taking my call.
Yeah, thank you. Great phone call. Thank you, sir. Call again, Jack. Appreciate it.
Will do.
T-Doc, nice to see you in the house. Ewers won't sit behind Manning. He probably won't. He'll probably transfer. But I think Ewers is going to be the starter for the first couple weeks. And if he's performing, okay, he keeps the job. And maybe he gets his footwork all figured out. But go watch the tapes on his footwork. That's what gets him in trouble. Arch Manning has impeccable footwork. Yeah, this show, this peek around the corner, you guys are going to get sick of my hyping Manning, but he's the real deal. Watch his high school tape. Just do it. Tonight, watch Arch Manning's high school. You know what? I'll post it on my Twitter account. Give it a watch. He is so advanced. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The city of Miami is the antithesis of Big Ten country. Please know they're going to be in the mix. Tony says Florida State and Miami. Go get them. D5 Terps, they have to get that demo. They're going to go in. They're going to get it somehow, some way. The Big Ten's for a national conference, they're going to get into that southeast part. 1 or 2 schools. Flugor says 24 schools. Monovision thinks it's 21. David Klein thinks it's 24. Gopher Tony says 20 at the most. Maryland can be a tier 2 team, no doubt about it. This is a big year for Maryland. Big year. Big. We talked about it. Where did I have Maryland ranked in my number 5? Number 5? Number 6? I don't remember. For the entire Big Ten Conference. Big year. I think they got a chance to separate themselves like a clear delineation, a clear separation from Michigan State and from the Big Ten, a lot of those Big Ten West schools. Going into 2024 when we don't have 2 divisions, Maryland, they need to strike gold. They need to beat somebody that they shouldn't be able to beat, right? As an underdog, they need to play one of the big dogs and beat them. Michigan, Buckeyes, Penn State, they need to beat one of those schools. Just one game, clean up on the rest, and get yourself ready for 2024. D5 Terps says Notre Dame +3, 2 from ACC, 1 from the Pac-12. D5 Terps, we need a signature win. Yep, just one of them. Just one of them. Just one of them. And then clean up on the rest and then take off for 2024. Nick Kelso, when is the earliest we could see the ACC start to break apart? Gore gets challenged. Any update on Florida State? We have updates, but nothing that we can share at this time. Again, spring just started, March 21st. Before spring is over, I'll let you guys know everything that we know at that point. Everything that I can share. Again, I think people can kind of get the idea where I was going on December 26th when we had to stand down. There are schools that are contemplating challenging the grant of rights. And they're not working together. And that's all I can say at this point. I will have more information when it's the right time. But we had it December 26th. And of course, Florida State came out in public, 1 or 2 months later? A couple of months later. But it's now pulling the trigger and challenging the grant of rights and how you would go about that and actually having the conference break apart. There's going to be some time in between that. Even if they're successful, even if, first of all, they have to make the decision to pull the trigger on challenging the grant of rights. Second of all, they have to actually start if there's no settlement, they have to start the case. Third of all, they actually have to be successful. So ACC is not breaking apart anytime soon. But there might be some drama. Might be some drama by the end of this year, early next year. December 26th, rears its ugly head. Gopher, Monovision, the day the strings were attached. No! Bob Husley. Sark will screw up Manning. You watch. I don't know. Don't think you can screw up Manning. We shall see. That's going to be a big point of contention here at Peek Around the Corner. PATC community versus Greg the Cooler, Greg the Heater. We shall see. Jonathan Weaver, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate your generosity, helping us keep the lights on here at Peek Around the Corner. Appreciate you so much, Mr. Weaver. Why does Iowa get stuck with Nebraska when Wisconsin and Minnesota are more natural in historic rivalries? Plus, I love seeing that beautiful pig. Boo. No! Yeah, there's no question about it. Iowa, even though Iowa and Nebraska hate each other, Iowa and Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin, we've been at each other's throats for 125 years, well, longer than that, 133 years or so. Yeah, it is what it is. I know that Iowa is one of those schools that would definitely be against a one permanent rival schedule that I was mentioning earlier. But Iowa and Nebraska, you guys hate each other. Come on. You guys hate each other. That's a good rivalry. It's getting bigger and bigger every year. If Nebraska would just get better, if they would punch through and have a good season, things would really heat up. But right now, they're just everybody's doormat. Nebraska's just been kicked around by all three of those schools. Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Minnesota's beaten Nebraska like 4 straight years. Okay. Phone number 763-260-1333. The floor is yours. Talk anything college football. Today we talked about the quarterback battles, Quinn Ewers, Manning, and other battles going on in Georgia and Alabama. We talked about Barry Tramel's article in the Oklahoman, talking about how maybe they go to a one permanent rival schedule, the Big 12, from 2024 and beyond. Maybe they do that if they don't expand with more schools. Johnny Applewhite, 24 only works if there are only 2 conferences with their own separate football divisions. People claiming SEC, Big Ten are going to 24 and still sharing playoff access are laughable. And that's the question, Johnny. If you go to 24, you're not sharing playoff money with anybody. You might share it with the SEC. That's it. We don't know if consolidation is going to take us to 2 super conferences of 24 teams each. We don't know if the SEC just builds their own galaxy and separates from everybody. And same thing with the Big Ten. I hope not. But you're right. If it goes to 24, that probably will happen. 20, probably not. You make a good point, Johnny.
Call from
Moen.
Uh-oh. Moen Vision is on the line. He's not very happy with me. The floor is yours, sir.
Greg, you will forever be the cooler.
Not this year, baby. Not this year. Penn State, Washington, Texas, Georgia. I'm going 5 for 5. I'm going 5 for 5.
And I'm going to bet against every one of those, Greg.
What's on your mind, sir, besides giving me a hard time?
I just wanted to talk. I was going to call you the other night, but technical difficulties, you called that as well.
Yes. Yeah. I guess we need
I wanted to touch.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch base on the Pac drama as usual.
Yeah.
It occurred to me that a lot of people are going back and forth and saying this one's lying, that one's lying. I don't think that's the case. I think everybody's telling the truth. But some people are giving out bad information. I think John Canzano is being fed information by his sources for very different reasons than Dodd, Marchand, and McMurphy. I think he's clearly getting his sources are coming from Washington, Oregon, Oregon State, and Washington State. And they're putting out this very positive or just trying to delay people from leaving the Pac-12. They're trying to drag their feet. Oregon and Washington obviously are trying to drag their feet till the new big commissioner gets in there so they can work out something to get the assurances to get more votes on their side. Oregon State and Washington State, on the other hand, are desperate not to lose anybody because they're the two teams without a home.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't shock me for them to come out and say, oh, it's all positive, to try and reinforce that narrative. Stop people like Colorado, Arizona State looking to bolt right away. So I just saw a lot on the internet and on Twitter about people going back and forth about somebody's lying. It's possible that they're not lying. They just don't have accurate information.
Well, I can say this, Monovision. I don't know if you've seen my pushback on Twitter and everything. I absolutely 100% agree with you. These guys are not lying. And that's why this whole nonsense of some sort of conspiracy with Endeavor, the consulting firm, somehow they're giving people marching orders. People have different sources. They say different things. They have different angles to it. They sit on different perches. Of course, they say different things. John Casano, if he has sources coming from Oregon State and Washington State, and they truly think positive things are happening, they're going to give that information to Casano because they know he's going to say it, and he says it. That doesn't mean Casano's lying. It might mean his sources are just a little bit off on what reality is. But how would anybody know that? I mean, Casano wouldn't know that. He might think it, but these reporters are not a part of some sort of organized pack to try to get, the Big 12 to poach the Pac-12 or the Pac-12 to sign a media deal. They have different sources. That is why in Twitter, when this stupid talk about how everybody's saying anything negative about the Pac-12 media negotiations were part of some conspiracy, it's the most ludicrous thing I've seen on Twitter in a very long time. I absolutely agree with you, Motivated. I'm sorry I went off on your call, but I can I say one more thing and I'll give you the floor, Motivation?
Yeah, go ahead.
Guys and gals, you guys know what we've been saying at Peek Around the Corner in regards to this saga, how there's uneasiness feeling. We've talked about the Arizona State money perch talking. We've talked about this over and over again. The future of the Pac-12 is sitting on the knife's edge. It could go either way. I'm telling you, as I'm sitting here, there is more there than what's being said. There is more going on than what can be reported right now. So yes, it's all real. We don't know which way it's going, but there is incredible uneasiness inside the Pac-12. Unbelievable uneasiness. No, nothing is for sure. They don't have a deal. No, they don't have San Diego State locked in. No, the Big 12 hasn't poached the Pac-12. That's not locked in. Nothing is locked in. There are, I gotta be careful here, but there are real people out there who absolutely do not know how the Pac-12 is going to get this deal done. And they are not part of no stupid conspiracy. Okay? Okay, Monovision, the floor is back to you. Sorry about that, sir.
No, that's fine, Greg. Yeah, the Fox Sports report was what, I highly doubt that Dodd and McMurphy were wrong about Fox Sports not being involved.
They're not wrong.
They're not wrong. Fox is not involved. But I fully believe that Oregon State, Washington State, Oregon, and Washington would try and put that narrative out there to create some hesitancy from the other schools from possibly defecting. That, hey, no, we've got 2 linear media partners, and we're going to be on ESPN and Fox, and we're going to get $32.6 million in total media revenue and all that. But and then the other thing I wanted to bring up, Greg, was the Notre Dame situation with Jack Swarbrick and their thoughts on the semi-professional league. It's been a semi-professional league since the NFL, started drafting players from college football. There's no reason to pretend it hasn't been. The argument that players should not get paid is ridiculous. And if Notre Dame feels that way, by all means, Notre Dame doesn't have to participate. Notre Dame can roll up their football program or hold true to their roots and only recruit kids that they're not going to give money to put their health on the line to play football and make money for that university. And I know Notre Dame has a huge endowment, but they make a lot of money off of those kids playing football. And those kids should have every right to go out and make money.
Yeah, and again, it's not even really about the money; it's about the exposure of the university. Sports that gives value to those universities. I think it all has to do with Notre Dame does not want. They want to hold back the hands of time. They do not want to lose what they have, and they're going to lose it. They're going to lose the ability to compete at the highest level because they're football independent. It's all these conferences. You're talking about people are talking about this. Big 12 might get a data deal with these sports books. Monovision, we've been talking about that for months on this channel. We talked about that new revenue stream that these conferences are going to have. They're going to give real-time data to these sports books consortiums. They're going to give it that real-time data, real-time injury reports for millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, because these sports books, they're getting more and more action when it comes to real-time betting during the games. That's just part one of this data deal, right? None of these conferences have yet truly signed, including the Big 12, clearly signed a deal that gives the sports books the ability to use the data. They haven't gone that far yet. That's why I didn't peek around the corner, did not make a big deal of this new report that the Big 12, because basically all these conferences are doing the same thing. Notre Dame's not going to be able to do that. Not to the point where these big conferences are going to be able to do that. Bundling of third tier content is more valuable than standalone third tier content. Bundling first tier content is more valuable than standalone first tier content. Bundling of real-time data being sent to a sports book, getting millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars back, is going to be more valuable when it's bundled than when you're standalone property like Notre Dame. The walls are closing in on the Irish bit by bit, and they know it. That's why they went out with these interviews. They're trying to stop it. They're not going to be able to stop it.
I 100% agree, Greg. It's like standing on a train track and asking the train to stop. It's not going to stop.
It's not going to stop.
You best either get on the train or get off the track. So I'll wrap it up and let somebody else give you another call, Greg.
Thanks. Great call. Once again, sir, Monovision. Yeah. Thanks, Gary, for coming on the house. I think Dodds and Canzano are right. Sources may be off on timing, but the reports are true on a high level. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't, again, who I talk to, Gary, who I talk to, and the number of people I talk to grow every single month. Things are not good. They're just not good. Can they turn it around? Can George Kliavkoff turn it around? Yes, he can, but things are not good right now. So do I disagree with Canzano's take? Do I disagree with his sources? When they said circle March 21st, I did an episode on March 21st. I said, what domino's going to fall? I disagreed with Canzano. But just because I disagree with Canzano doesn't mean I think he's part of some conspiracy or he's lying. No. Whatever happened to just disagreeing with each other? I've had people on here have made such good arguments they've switched my mind on things. I had a certain perception. People have said something. I thought about it, and I've switched up my mind on it. I mean, that's what happens. No, one of the worst things about this whole, if I disagree with you, you must be part of a conspiracy, you must be lying. You know what the worst part about that is? It shuts down discussion. But now we can't even talk with each other. When we demonize other people just because we disagree with each other, we have a different take because we sit on a different perch. There may be something different about our lives, our past, that is different than the other person. Just because we disagree with each other, we're going to demonize each other. We don't demonize each other on this program. We have a fun time giving each other elbows, right? But we're not going to demonize. We're not going to call each other. We're just not going to do that. We're not going to call each other a liar. I have never called John Casano a liar. Wilner a liar. I'm not going to call all these other people liars. It's ridiculous. It really is. This is why, if I would do that, why do we have a YouTube channel talking about the game we love? You know, it's so we're not going to have it here on this YouTube channel. There are other YouTube channels that they can throw conspiracy back at each other, call each other liars. We're just going to disagree with each other. I got Gopher fans disagreeing with me. I got the Gophers at 5-7. I got the Nittany Lions winning the Big Ten championship. I got everybody disagreeing with me, and that is a good thing. That's the fun of it, and we're going to have fun. Okay. A lot of great comments. Again, phone number is 763-260-1333. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. Go to that link. Go to this merchandise store. The two top sellers, no question about it, is the mug and the trucker hat. The mug's right here, folks. Beautiful mug. Every time I say cloak and dagger. Look at that. Look at that beautiful face. Huh? Don't you want that beautiful face in your shelf just to pull that out? Have yourself your favorite cup of coffee, or your whiskey, or your tequila, or your Diet Coke. Look at that. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Go to the merch store. Go get it. Great. 5-7. Have you been banned from Dinkytown yet? 5-7, and I made that prediction before Trill Carter went into the transfer portal. I think, Tony, I think it's going to be an interesting season. Athen Clackamanus, the Greek rifle. Darius Taylor, true freshman. Zach Evans, redshirt freshman running backs. We got a good receiver core coming back. Now we just got to sling the ball. We actually have to throw the ball downfield. But the offensive line, I think it's taken another step back this year. Defensive line did not produce, even though we had the 9th best defense in the country. Defensive line underproduced. Linebacker, we got question marks all over the place. Cody Lindenberg, great linebacker, number 45. Besides him, what do we got? We have to replace Howden, the safety. We got Newbin, who's a great safety, going to be drafted in 2024 in the NFL. Great safety. We got some good cornerbacks, but we got a lot of question marks. So we'll see. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I know PJ Fleck doesn't think it's a 5-7 team for 2023. But I think it's going to be tough. Plus, the Gophers, Tony, that was such a difficult schedule. Such a difficult schedule. Curtis says, just stop. The Pac-12 is not merging with the ACC. They're finished. The sooner you realize it, the better. Now, going back to the Pac-12 merging with the ACC, we've been saying no way. ACC, not going to happen. Florida State wouldn't be interested. Clemson wouldn't be interested. Wild Dude had a great phone call on here a couple weeks ago. And he got me thinking, what if there was an implosion happen in the Pac-12? What if the Four Corners schools went to the Big 12? What if Oregon and Washington went to the Big 10? Maybe there'd be something there with the rest of the Pac-12 schools.
Call from.
Hello? I didn't get the name.
Hey, it's Soap. S-O-A-P. Soap.
Got it. The floor is yours. What do you got to say, sir?
Greg, thanks for taking my call, by the way. I appreciate it. Really enjoying your show.
Thank you.
I took your advice, and I looked back at a video you had recommended. I think it was episode 20 or 22, when it came out with the discussion about USC and UCLA leaving and departing the Pac-10, Pac-12. I'm sorry. Yeah. And you made a comment there, and I wanted some clarification on it. You had said that, correct me if I'm wrong on this, please, but you had made comment that USC and UCLA had notified the Pac-12 a day or 2 days before some deadline was to expire that they were required to give notification, and that there was some concern that you had that Washington and Oregon might be restricted from moving because of some legal requirements, legal ramifications there. And I'm just wondering, if first, is there some legal ramification there? And then second, oh, sorry, go ahead if you want to answer that.
Well, I think I was wrong. That's what I think. I don't think there is. What I've come to understand now is there really is no hurdle in those Pac-12 bylaws. I'm going to have to recheck it again, but I've been told there really is no hurdle. If it happens, if Oregon and Washington, if somehow the Big Ten swings it with a new media company with new money and the presidents get on board with the new commissioner, that on and on and on, there is no real hurdle. I think I was wrong when I said that in episode 22.
Okay, well, I was just trying to put some pieces together because it would have laid down a clear way if the remaining schools had come out and issued this letter of agreement between them saying, hey, look, we tried, we wanted to remain together, we wanted to be part of it, but we couldn't get a legal, or we couldn't get a good a deal from the network, so that's why we left. And that actually might be a reason that they can make with their alumni, that, hey, look, we wanted to stay in the Pac, but we couldn't get this deal. And I don't think anybody's going to vote for it if it's as low as they're talking about. And I don't understand why Oregon or Washington would agree under any circumstances to a right of or grant of rights.
Great points. Absolutely great points. I agree with you. There's a lot of different motivations why that thing came out on September, that when all those Pac-12 presidents made a statement on February 13th. A lot of different motivations, like what you said. Some of them probably wanted that out there because that gives them cover if they have to decide that they have to make a move. I think that's one of the reasons why President Robbins of Arizona went out in public. Multiple interviews, not just one, multiple interviews where he laid out benchmarks. 50% has to be linear. I need to see the numbers. This is a business decision. Yes, I want to stay in the Pac-12. I know the Big 12. I know their number. I need to learn our number. He put so much out there. Well, like what you're saying is now this gives him political coverage just in case they have to make the decision to leave. He can say that he put that out in public for everybody to know.
Right, right. And just real quick, Greg,
Yeah.
can you explain to me what the interest is with Fresno State? There were some reports today that they said Fresno State might or had been contacted by the Big 12. I don't understand that. Could you?
Yeah, well, I did an
clear that up
episode.
for me?
Go to our YouTube channel. We did episode 174. It was released late last night. We
Okay.
talked about that, but I'll just give a quick rundown here. University president, Fresno State, Sandoval. They're trying to get a Measure E. They tried to get this passed a couple years ago. It failed, like a 52 to 47 vote in whatever county the university's in, where they can get more funds, sales tax or something like that, more funds to be able to boost up some of their facilities. They think if they can get that, it can boost their candidacy for a Big 12 invite, because the university president said out in public on Thursday. This happened Thursday. It came out in the newspapers Friday, but Sandoval said, because we've been in contact with the Big 12 or a potential candidate. I think it is serious. I don't think Fresno State in no way controls their own destiny. I think things have to fall just perfect for Big 12 to take them in. But obviously, there's been communication.
Right. Excellent. I sure appreciate that. And,
Yep.
we're kind of bummed out here in Houston. No U of H or UT in the Final Four, but we'll put on a good show.
Yeah,
Focus
well,
out.
sorry to hear that, man. I had Houston win it all in my bracket, but Greg the Cooler, I'm sorry. I think I destroyed your team single-handedly.
No, they did it to themselves.
All right.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks. Great call. Beautiful.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Gregory Krug. In the next 50 years, how many current football programs that never make the SEC or Big Ten will cease to exist? I think people have to realize that we don't know the economics will be in college football, college sports 20 years from now. Right now, the economics is making everything consolidate, right? Bigger brands want to play bigger brands more often. NIL. Student athletes probably becoming some sort of kind of employees to the school, to the university, or some other third party that represents the athletic department, however that plays out. But 20 years from now, 25 years from now, 30 years from now, when you guys all join my grave at my funeral, it might be a completely different type of atmosphere. Maybe, for whatever reason, there will be pressure on these big conferences and they break apart, they fracture. It's harder to keep these big conferences together. Then we have demographic changes going throughout the country. We don't know. I think it's just too far out. This is peek around the corner. This is not crystal ball. We don't have a crystal ball, but we can give somewhat of a peek. We know where things are heading now. We knew it when Oklahoma and Texas called the SEC together. We knew it when USC called the Big Ten. We reported that on March 31st. We know what the economics is doing to the sport that we love, but we don't know what's going to happen really 20, 30, 40 years from now. We don't even know what's going to happen next week with the Pac-12 media deal. We know there's a media market recession. That's causing havoc to George Kliavkoff. It's causing havoc. These media companies do not want to shell out the money. Not the linear ones. They don't. The ad buys, the ad rates have just dropped. the last 6 months, they've dropped. These media companies are not bringing in the ad money, so they're not going to shell out these huge media packages unless it's a must-have. Not a want, but a must-have. So this media market, it's causing incredible havoc to George Kliavkoff and the Pac-12 schools. Great phone call. Great phone calls once again from the PATC community. Penn State 1, Michigan 0, third period. Holy smokes.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate. Brian is in the house. What's going on, sir?
Hey, just thought I'd give it a call, say hi. Wanted to quick talk about the future, if that's where you're going.
Yes.
The future is not the regular season, as I'm sure you're aware.
Yeah.
But that seems to be what everyone thinks about when they look at the future, about who goes where, and there's very little money in the. You might even see the regular season get shortened in the future. That's what I would say. They're probably going to go down with number of regular season games, and they'll make up for it by having like postseason conference tournaments and things like that played in these stadiums. So those will be worth a lot more money to the networks because, as you're saying, there's just no money in regular season anymore. So if people want to know where the future is and what teams are out, which teams are in, they need to start thinking more about conference postseason, who goes where, and how that gets sold, because those are the games that network will be able to pay more for because they'll get more advertising for those games.
I agree. That's why we call it the Great Gold Rush of 2026, right?
Yeah, and you've been talking about the right time period too, with the 2026, with the contracts, how they can totally rewrite them in a couple of years.
Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen, Brian. We don't have a clue what's going to happen.
Not really. You can pick out like one or two steps, but then from there it just becomes so many possibilities that it's just hard.
Yep,
But,
I agree.
I would say to people,
go ahead.
Watch for this to continue getting put together. The networks will somehow piece together a little bit of money just to make it happen. But in the end, it really comes down to how do you best form a conference tournament? Do you want to have division champions with, like, say, one wild card so that way you could still have like Ohio State and a Michigan in the same division where they could still both make it in? Because you have to be able to show to the networks we could get our best, how you could possibly get your best assets into that conference tournament at the end of the year. Yeah. And that's how it's worth the most money. I mean, we saw them, the last valuation was $20 million for a conference championship game, and that was in the BCS era. So I couldn't even give an honest evaluation of how much it's worth now. But if you stick that in a 16 conference tournament of 5 division champions and 1 wild card, I would say that there is an insane amount of money involved with that. It's probably worth more than the regular season entirely.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And I'll take it a different step is Jim Delaney. I think his name was Mike Hollis, the former Michigan State athletic director. Hollis and Delaney used to talk about getting to 16 schools and then having a semifinal before the conference championship game. And we've talked about this on Peek Around the Corner. That's a possibility. Jim Harbaugh has talked about it. So you get 4 divisions. You take a game away from the conference schedule, right? Because it's not as worth as much. Some schools we all might lose 1 home game, but then you have the semifinals to sell to the networks. So, you're right, though. You're right. The money is in the playoffs. Even in the 2024 and 2025 playoffs, it looks like, now this is still speculation, It looks like it's going to be somewhere over $1 billion. It looks like 80% of the revenue is going to go to Power 5 schools, 20% is going to go to G5 schools. It looks like possibly, don't nail me on it because I'm probably going to be wrong, but it's going to be somewhere around the $20 million figure. Each Power 5 schools going to get $20 million in their athletic department just because they're a Power 5 school. And this is not counting what you would get extra if you actually made the playoffs. $20 million a year? That's more than every ACC school is only making $17 million a year on their Tier 1 media rights.
Mm-hmm.
While the Big Ten is making $35 million right now, that doesn't count for the next media contract. What I'm saying is this is, like you're saying, Brian, this is huge money, the playoffs. That's why everybody knows it. That's why everyone is elbowing each other. That's why everyone's trying to get in the best position for 2026. That's why Oregon and Washington are trying to get to the Big Ten. That's why San Diego State, SMU is trying to get to the Pac-12 more than ever. Everybody wants to improve themselves as best they can before 2026 hits. It's going to be incredible what happens.
And the money that we're seeing now is what's big. It's still just scratching the surface.
Yes.
And as someone who said we know how much they make at the home games, they make a lot, but it varies depending upon who they play.
Yeah.
If you're talking about one of the cupcake games at home, it's not nearly as much. I mean, it's still a lot for them.
Yep.
But there's also expenditures involved with that.
Yep.
So, and if they can get a home game that's a playoff game versus a home game versus, I don't know, Indiana or, I don't know, Vanderbilt, that home game that's a playoff game is, I don't know, 5, 10, a ton more, because those tickets sell for how much more for that game than they would for a home game in the middle of the season against a team that everyone's just kind of like, they're going to blow through them. So, not all teams will make the playoffs. No, they won't. But Ohio State's and Alabama's will.
Yeah.
And the others are just going to sit back and take the free pay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I know my Gophers will, as long as you guys let us.
I know my Hawkeyes will.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like, I don't think the Gophers and the Hawkeyes are going to even be in the same division when this comes down.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
We're being with the add-ons is what my thinking is, but that's fine because Iowa and Minnesota are a little bit different culturally.
Yeah. Well, Iowa's in a lot. When you come to Iowa's in a lot better value spot than Minnesota. So, even though Minnesota's got the bigger market, Iowa has all the other advantages you could ever want. So Iowa's in a better spot than most Big Ten schools. I think they're above that medium. So I wouldn't worry about Iowa.
No, I'm not worried about them, but I think Minnesota, I think the same thing for them that I think about others is that the game changed for Minnesota when NIL came to play.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
No longer a geographic recruiting situation. You can do more now to work over that.
Yep.
So,
all right.
I think we're with the likes of Nebraska and Kansas and some schools that people will be like, whoa, really? But, we'll see how it all works out, man.
Yep. Thanks. Great call, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep. Have yourself a good night, man. Good talking.
Opie, thank you so much for your generous donation. I appreciate it, sir. I have asked this question before. When Oregon and Washington go to the Big Ten, will the SEC be forced to take some of the Four Corners schools? If that happens, you see the Big Ten, SEC go to 24 teams in a hurry, in my opinion. New fun for the new modem. Thank you, Opie, so very much. Appreciate it. I don't think the SEC will be I don't think they'll feel that they're forced to do anything. I don't think they'll take any of the four corner schools. If somehow Oregon and Washington come to the Big Ten before the 2024 season, I think SEC stands still. One of the things that is making people, how should I say this? Opie, we're back to 2026 again. If 2026 rolls in and we hear reports in 2024, 2025, if we hear reports that the Big Ten and the SEC are okay with, are in favor with, are pushing it for a 16-team playoffs with maybe only 4 automatic berths, that maybe they want 12 at-large bids instead of 6 in the current 2024-2025 playoff system. If we start hearing things about that, we all know what that means. Those conferences are going to expand. They want to expand. SEC's going to want to get into North Carolina. They want to get into Virginia. They want to get into new country. Make other places SEC country, where they can sell the SEC network, where they can just push that SEC incredible, valuable brand. I don't think SEC is going to mess around with any four corner schools. I don't think they're going to be in a hurry to do anything. And I'm just wondering, one of these hurdles that have to be overcome if Big Ten takes in Oregon and Washington. Will Big Ten think, 18 schools? Is there going to be more at-large bids in the playoffs come 2026? Probably. I think that's one of the questions that the Big Ten has to answer. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the generous donation, Opie. Thank you so very much. All right, back to the phone lines. 763-260-1333. Delmo, Greg, you said the other day in the live show the Big 12 has problems. Was that in reference to when the ACC gets picked apart by the SEC and the Big Ten? Phil went after that. Not quite sure what you're saying there. Well, first of all, let me say all conferences have issues. All conferences have problems. I would say, and I get a lot of Big 12 heat on this. For example, I don't think the Big 12 gets out of their third tier value, out of the third tier content, the value that the ACC does. And it's nowhere near the value the SEC in the Big 10 gets. The Big 12, their deal with ESPN Plus is not what people really think it is. The Big 12 strengths and weaknesses, the weaknesses is actually ESPN and how it's set up right now. Maybe they can get it changed, but right now with ESPN, the ACC network's going to pull in more money, and it has been for those ACC schools. The reason why the ACC conference payouts for those ACC schools are not above Big 12 or not way above Big 12, I'm not sure where they are right now, they're pretty close, is because of that horrific Tier 1 contract, media contract the ACC has. So everybody's got weaknesses, everybody's got strengths. That's what I meant by Big 12 has problems. I think but let me take a step back. What the Big 12 has right now with ESPN Plus is better than what most of those Big 12 schools had before ESPN Plus. So they made an improvement, but the Big 12 never has been able to find a sugar daddy to be able to help build their conference network. ESPN Plus is not a conference network. It's a depository. It's a place where you can go. It's easily accessible, although sometimes the quality isn't all that great. You go and you watch your softball team, your baseball team, your non-revenue sports team. Some of those football games will be on ESPN Plus. The Big 12 schools get back enough money to pay the production costs for many of those events on ESPN Plus, but not a nickel more. ESPN Plus subscriber rate, as it grows, none of that money is tied in to the Big 12 schools. Those Big 12 schools get a flat fee, no matter the success of ESPN Plus. They do not get more money the better success of ESPN Plus. ACC network, ACC schools are tied into the success of the ACC network. Big 10 schools are tied into the success of the Big 10 network. Definitely, they even own part of the Big 10 network. Same with SEC schools. They don't own any of their network, but they are tied into the success of the SEC network. So that is one weakness the Big 12 have. That's what I'm talking about. Big 12, we talk about the issues the Pac-12 has all the time. I was just saying the Big 12, they have issues. ACC has issues. Big 10's going to have some traveling issues. Okay. Hopefully that answers your question. UNC is more valuable to the Big Ten than Florida State. I would agree. But I think Florida State is the next most valuable school for the Big Ten in the ACC. North Carolina is also the most valuable school for the SEC. North Carolina is the most valuable school for both conferences. And then I think Florida State is the second most for the Big Ten. And for the SEC, I don't think Florida State's the second most valuable school. Just because the SEC is already in the state of Florida. Excuse me. Losing my voice. Yeah. I see some talk about Rutgers. Tony says Rutgers is the state flagship. University of New Jersey, 9.25 million people live in the state, plus New York City. Rutgers is a top 19 top public school. Great addition by Big Ten. Again, we've been over this before, peek around the corner. But at that time, there was no... The Big Ten, when they expanded to the 13th and 14th school, it was going to be in the East, without question. Jim Delaney wanted a two-regional conference. He wanted to secure Penn State, let them know that they were valued, that they were going to get schools next to them into the Big Ten. Jim Delaney wanted that East Coast media presence. That's what he wanted. And he was going to get two Eastern schools. His first two selections were not, his top two targets were not Maryland and Rutgers. They were North Carolina and Virginia, and they didn't want to go. So Maryland, Big Ten has been talking for Maryland for years and years and years on potential expansion into Maryland. Maryland carries so much Big Ten alumni in that state, all along the eastern corridor. So many Big Ten alumni from the state of Michigan, Ohio State, and others. State of Ohio and others. So when Maryland said, yes, we want to go in, they got him in before the grant of rights appeared in the ACC. But it was after the exit fee. So Maryland had to pay some sort of exit fee. It was negotiated. That's how Maryland came aboard. Rutgers was, Big Ten told Rutgers, because they couldn't get anybody else, but Rutgers met the criteria: research school, large population, good demographics for recruiting, a lot of Big Ten alumni, that New York that media presence. But Rutgers was told you're accepted if Maryland actually goes through with this. If Maryland signs on the dotted line, then you will come in as school 14. If Maryland would have said no, Big Ten would not have brought Rutgers in. Maryland said yes. Rutgers came in, and that's that. North Carolina, they screwed up. They've cost themselves a lot of money. I don't think they're going to make that mistake again. I don't think North Carolina is going to be an ACC school years down the road. They're going to go to the SEC or the Big Ten. The Catholics and convicts rivalry must be renewed. Joe, nice to see you in the house. Yeah, I think there's a chance. That's a Big Ten game years down the road.
Call from
Lewis, thanks for calling. Again, I apologize to you, sir, from the other night. We do have a modem problem. We're going to get a new modem probably tomorrow. So far, we're doing okay. Lewis, the floor is yours.
We're going to be very quick. 2 points. First of all, I attended last year's Final Four. Luckily, I got tickets through Duke, so it saved me a fortune. Tickets were sky high. Demand was sky high. 1 year later, this will be the cheapest Final Four in history. It's the Motel 6 Final Four because none of the four teams are within driving distance, and only Connecticut really has any kind of a legitimate fan base that would travel. So it's going to be absolute bargain basement. And the second thing is all the tweets from Pac-12, from Wilner and from Canzano and others saying, invite San Diego State. They need to get a media deal done and get Oregon and Washington to sign a grant of rights. Or I don't know how San Diego State would be willing to rip up their contract with the Mountain West to basically buy a pick and a poke. And those are my points. Thank you.
Thank you, Lewis. Great call. Thank you, Lewis, for that great call. No doubt about it. I mean, you got to get a deal done to get San Diego State on board. No, everybody understands that Pac-12. We did it way back in episode number 4. Of course, Pac-12 has to expand and get San Diego State. They can't let that Southern California market go. You can't let Brett Yormark come through the back window and offer San Diego State. But you got to get a deal done. You got to get it done. And I don't know. I mean, to thread the needle, it's going to be difficult. Like Lewis said, to get Oregon and Washington to sign a grant of rights, to be in mainly streaming, and this whole thing about Apple TV possibly sub-licensing. First of all, none of what I've been told, nobody has any evidence that that's percolating. Logic kind of puts us there, but there really is no, from the people that I've talked to, from the perch that they sit on, they just don't see any evidence of that. But let's say it's happening. People are coming up with this theory that somehow Apple TV will take all the content, right? Give Pac-12 $300 million, $30 million per school. Okay? We're pretending here. But that's, some people are talking about this, right? Apple TV, $300 million a year, $30 million per school. They have all the content, and then they'll sub-license, they'll give some of that content and farm it out to certain networks. Some of them big, some of them medium, some of them small. Some, maybe Fox, a couple games here. Maybe ESPN, a game here. Maybe CW, a game here. Maybe Ion, 3 games there. Okay? But if Apple TV is going to put out 300, now I don't know what the number, I don't even know if they're talking. We're pretending here. We're pretending, okay? If Apple TV is going to put out $300 million, $300 million a year, They don't even know if this thing's going to work. But $300 million a year to the Pac-12. They're going to sub-license content out. The Apple TV needs to grow their subscriber base if they're going to do this deal. They're going to need to see it grow. They're going to need to have the biggest games. They're going to have the biggest valuable games. They're going to have to keep Oregon and Washington. Whoever is at top of the conference at the end of the season, Utah versus whoever, they need to keep those games because they need incentive for you and me to buy the subscription to Pac-12 Apple TV content. So why in the heck would they be farming out, sub-licensing all this content to these networks to fulfill Arizona President Robbins' benchmark of saying 50% of this better be linear? I don't know how this works, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how this works. And I'm not very bright, okay? I know that. I'm not very smart. But there really are smart people out there who don't know how this deal is going to come together. They have no idea. And they talk to people. And they have still, March 26th, they have no idea. I understand people leaning into this Apple TV thing. They have a whole lot of money. They're going to try to get into the college football space. They're willing to pay more. But how does that work for Apple TV if they're going to have to farm out this stuff to fulfill what certain presidents of the Pac-12 they feel they need to have for their front porch of the university? They need to have a such and such percentage of their content on linear TV. So how does that work for Apple TV? I don't know. I don't have the answers. I just got a whole bunch of questions. So does everybody else. And Arizona State money perch guy. That last letter that I read in the last live show, I mean, that's about as calm as he's been. They don't truly know how this is going to come together. So I'm going to end the show on that point because we don't have the answers to how the Pac-12 deal is going to look, how it's going to work, and how George Kliavkoff is going to thread the needle to get everybody to sign on board. And there's Brett Yormark. He's got Fox Sports and ESPN in his corner. He's circling around. He's going to try to come through the back window. So George Kliavkoff, don't know how you're going to do it, but you got to get this deal done. You got to get it done soon. So before you leave our show tonight, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. That's the way you get notified because we pop up at any time. We could pop up 2 hours from now. We've done it before. We've done double headers if there's breaking news. The only way to know when we're coming on is to subscribe to our channel. We are the outlaw, the outpost in all of college football YouTube channels. Please subscribe. Smash that like button before you leave. It helps us with the algorithm so much. Go visit our merch store. Go visit our merch store on the link in the description box. Go visit Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. There's also a link in the description box. And thank you so much for coming. I know we had some terrible technical difficulties on our last show. We survived this show. We did it. We'll get a new modem. We'll be running real good next week, coming up this week. So many things going on in college football. So stick with us. Hang with us here. Until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take good care of each other. Thank you so very much.